What's up? Episode number 49 of the PJ and Pals podcast. And this is actually part two, my first ever two-parter podcast with Nick. Part one, we started talking about our favorite albums and our favorite movies from 2010 to 2015. This is a continuation where we do our favorite movies and albums from 2016 to 2019. So if you enjoyed the first half of the podcast or the part one, or if you're just listening to this one, maybe go back and check out part one. This one, we also talk about our favorite sporting events, where we were in certain moments in the past 10 years, like, you know, Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo, spoiler alert, but like the moment that we saw that, what it was like. So we talk about all that in this podcast. If you're checking this out on YouTube, I just posted the full episode. So there's no part one, part two, just the full episode on YouTube. So thank you for checking it out, and hope you enjoy this episode. All right, we're recording.
All right, great.
Are you wearing a Team Canada jersey, or is it like a shirt?
No, it's a jersey. It's a full jersey.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Nice.
That may be a preview of one of my best sports moments of the decade, but
yeah.
you know, so Lessa got me this back in 2015, where the Connor McDavid year. So
yeah,
guys went pretty sweet.
You guys went to that gold medal game, right?
We did.
Yeah.
So that was pretty sweet. I haven't been able to get into it as much this year. I don't know why.
See, this year, I think I've been into it the most I've been in it since the Connor McDavid year.
Really?
Yeah, because like last year, I was like really excited to see Mike DiPietro play, and I think it was just with the timing because it was in Vancouver, and you know I don't have cable, so like everything like I watch like has to be on my phone, so it's a little kind of like sometimes it kind of sucks. Well. The first, like the preseason week, I was in Kingston and we had cable. And then last week we were in Windsor, and I would get up at like 9 o'clock in the morning. Nobody else would get up till like 11, and I'd watch all the games. So I was watching like, you know, Czech and Germany play. Like I just watched everything. Right. So, and I've been following Nico Dawes since like the summer, I guess. Like, I follow like goalie drill sites. And the one I really like is Nico Dawes and another guy who, he was like the fourth goalie selected for Canada. So unfortunately, Nico got pulled, but still.
Yeah. Is he like, what type of prospect is he? Is he like going to be drafted top 10, top 20? Or is
he he's kind of like Mike Murphy, where this is like, he's already passed his draft year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's this will be his second year eligible for draft year, which kind of sucks because last year he won the Memorial Cup, but he was backup. And then this year he's gotten like his first start and he just kind of ran with it. But Joe Hoffer, the guy who is playing for Canada, he's actually a Blues prospect.
Okay.
Yeah. So
under I was going to say Binghamton.
Yeah. Not the old Sens affiliation.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, welcome to the first podcast of 2020. I guess the new decade. Yeah, so I decided that we should do like a recap. What's a better way to start a new decade than recap the old decade, right?
Perfect. Yeah, live in the past. No.
Yeah. So, so we want to start by doing our favorite albums and favorite movies from 2010 and onward, but one a year, which is kind of tricky. I don't know if you found it tricky.
It was pretty tough. So like I had a list of a few that I knew would be on there, but then as I went through the years, like I start adding more. So I had like at one point I had like about 5 a year that I was like, oh, but this one, I forgot about this one because I started listening to it late, but it came out that year.
Yeah.
So like it depends on, I guess, the criteria you want to put in. Like, so it was albums that came out in like that particular year, but maybe I didn't get into them till the year after. So
yeah,
it's kind of, it was interesting.
Yeah, and like I found like I had like some years like where I remember listening to an album over and over and over again, but like I don't listen to it now, and I was like, there's nothing else from that year that I really like, and same with movies. The movies were a little tricky, because like you can't remember every movie that came out, right? So I tried to like remember my favorite album from like, or just I like wrote down my favorite albums and then I tried to find which year it's from. Like, you know, the albums I've listened to the most.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then like, so that helped me eliminate a little bit, but like, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I feel like our movie lists are going to be way different.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got asked to do an Oscars party last night and I was like, I couldn't tell you one movie name for the Oscars.
Yeah.
And I looked it up and I was like, they haven't even released yet. Right. Like,
You know what? Looking at my list, there's only a few that are kind of Oscar movies, but like I think there's ones in there that I totally forgot about. Anyway.
All right, you want to start with albums or movies?
Well, I was going to ask you. So, did you want to do like one of like albums and then movies, or did you want to do it chronologically, like the year 2010 and then the year 2011?
I like your idea better. Let's do year 2010.
Yeah. Then we do everything.
Yeah, we get it out of the way. Awesome.
Cool. All right.
Let's hear your 2010.
All right. So 2010 was tough. Right away, I have two. So right away, it's a tie. That's not a good way to start. But 2010 was Inception.
Oh.
And also The Social Network.
Oh, see, I've never seen The Social Network.
Oh, it's really, really good. And the score is done by Trent Reznor, right? He, I think, speaking of Oscars, I think he won an Oscar for that.
Cool.
Yeah. So Trent Reznor has an Oscar, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. And fun fact about Trent Reznor, he got his first ever #1 hit this year.
Did he?
Yeah, and it was Old Town Road. They had to credit Trent Reznor for Old Town Road because they ripped off the beat.
Right.
So he gets
I remember
#1.
You told me that.
Yeah.
I had no idea until I heard them both side by side.
It's almost freaky. Like, it's almost like, oh, like they stole, like, it's not like, you know, a Taylor Swift song, like Look What You Made Me Do. Like, kind of sounds like a different song, but it's not. And she still credits the different song because like, it's almost like that the mood of the song is very similar. This is just a complete ripoff. Like, this is like,
like I heard it and it's like, it's the total beginning. It's crazy.
Yeah. So that was your favorite album? Sorry.
Movie. So I couldn't decide between Inception and The Social Network. So Inception I remember I was super into movies at the time, went to the midnight screening of Inception, like in IMAX. It was crazy. I didn't understand it at first. And then the more you watch it, the more you pick up, and it's got that really interesting, like time, I don't know what you call it. Not time paradox, but like a weird way to tell the story. Yep. Then The Social Network is really cool because of that score. And what's his name? Has a really, really good performance in it.
Justin Timberlake.
Well, I guess
Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse Eisenberg, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, he's kind of a dick, but he's smarter than everybody else in the movie, so you can kind of see things from his perspective too. So
yeah,
I
had a much different 2010 for selection of movies because
all right,
2010 I thought there was a lot of good movies. So Harry Potter came out, the second last one. Toy Story 3, which is amazing. Tangled.
Mm-hmm.
And so the two movies that I had it like narrowed down to was Expendables. Because remember that first Expendables movie, that Jason Statham like knife scene was amazing. But I thought back, I was like, when was the last time I watched Expendables? Probably 9 years ago. So I don't think I could like, or maybe 8 years ago or whatever. Like, I don't think I could pick that for a favorite movie. But a movie I recently watched maybe 2 months ago, and I've watched it maybe once every couple of years from 2010. I think we saw it together. I definitely saw it with Eric Benucci, but MacGruber.
MacGruber.
Yes.
Yeah. That was on my list. I was going through it. I'm like, I do watch that one all the time.
Yeah. Just such different movie choices. That you choose The Social Network and Inception. I'm like, MacGruber. Like,
this might be a theme.
Yeah.
We'll but do you have a favorite line from MacGruber?
One album I even made the joke last night, like where like he's like talking about like, do you want to fuck me? Like, and he goes, you got any whiteout or whatever he said. So anytime I make a reference to getting raped, I'm like, do you got any whiteout?
I like the upper decker, the upper decker scene, and like, and then when all of his buddies blow up in that accident, like never saw it. coming. That's pretty good.
I also always use like anytime I'm like struggling with something, like especially when it came to like coding in class, and like I'd make this joke and nobody would catch it, but I'd be like, I'm more of a 3-wire guy, like, but nobody would catch that joke.
They're all too young, I guess.
I know they are. Yeah, I'm the oldest one in the class, but yeah. Did you listen to the Armchair Expert with Will Forte?
I don't remember if I did. I don't think I did, because it was a couple months ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I missed it.
Because Dax talks a lot about how he loves MacGruber, and just like how MacGruber came to be is like just, and it didn't do well at the box office, but like apparently Pepsi wanted a commercial done by Saturday Night Live, and they wanted like Andy Samberg to make a commercial, and the guys from Saturday Night Live were like, no, let's make a MacGruber commercial. And then Pepsi didn't like that, and then they ended up using it for the Super Bowl. And then someone wanted to make a movie, and they wanted like an Andy Samberg movie, like Hot Rod.
Right.
And they were like, no, we're doing MacGruber. So just nobody.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say the Saturday Night Live skits were great. Like they would always just end with an explosion.
Yeah.
And it would be him fumbling around for like 5 minutes, and then boom, like credits. It was great.
Yeah.
Those skits were awesome.
All right, now let's hear your favorite album of 2010.
Okay, favorite album. This one's kind of predictable. I'm going with the Black Keys Brothers.
Okay, yeah.
So that was the first, and I got into it a little bit later than 2010, but I figure I listened to it all the time when it came out in 2010. So that one had, I always forget which tracks were on which album, but that one had a ton of. That one had "Howlin' for You," "Tighten Up," so it had like a lot of hits.
That had
carry through to like the end of the decade.
My Next Girl, right?
Yeah, My Next Girl, really good song.
So there was a thing we did at K-Rock one time where it was named. We would sing a melody, and they would have to guess. We did a little contest. It was like we'd sing a melody, and you had to get like with bad lyrics, and you had to guess what song it was. And we always it was like my lyrics that we would sing. Cause I remember one time I was walking through the halls of K-Rock, and I heard, that song, My Next Girl. And I didn't know the words. So I was like, my next girl, pina colada. But it's like, my next girl would be nothing like my ex-girl. But like, I just didn't hear those lyrics. Now I only hear those lyrics. But at the time I was just like, the song was brand new. And I was like, my next girl, pina colada. So we used that like as one of our lyrics for like, guess this song, and like nobody got it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
that's a good song. What about you?
Easy one for me was 2010, because it was I don't even think I looked up what albums came out, but it was Bring Me the Horizon, There's a Heaven, Believe Me I've Seen It,
oh yeah,
There's a Hell. That album is one of my, like, I'm still listening to it today. Like Bring Me the Horizon released a new song. They released a new album last week, which I wouldn't really call music, but they released a new song.
I still haven't got around to listen to it.
Like the second song's like 25 minutes long, and it's just like someone tapping on like a desk and then like a rapper over it. Like it's not music. It's like 6 songs, and it's like an hour and a half long. And so yeah, that album came out, and like, so anytime Bring Me the Horizon releases anything, like especially the last couple of years, I'm like, this sucks. And then I go back and I get into like There Is a Heaven, Believe Me I've Seen It. And, that album like it had like 6 singles from it. They were all like incredible. It was this album with lights on it. I don't know if you heard any of it, but I remember
no.
I used to show Julia the songs all the time when we were working together, because she loves lights, and like, so lights features on 2 of the songs, and like that's, the guitar riffs, and just, that's my favorite album it's probably one of my top 5 favorite albums of all time. So it was easy to pick. Yeah. And, Mudvayne didn't release an album that year. They released their last album a week before 2010. So it was very easy for me. Very easy.
Yeah. That sucks.
They had to release an album a week later. It would have been maybe a discussion, but.
For sure. And is that, which album is the kind of the line between Bring Me the Horizon being like a little more poppy? Because they kind of made a slow transition.
This one. So if you like go, like every album Bring Me the Horizon does gets softer and softer, right? Like their first album's like straight deathcore, right? Like it's almost like I'm not a huge fan of the album, but like it's straight deathcore. And then the next one's like where they kind of get in that little punker, like it's still deathcore, but there's like a little bit of a punk vibe where like you can, he's chanting a bit and stuff like that. And that's where they had that song, Diamonds Aren't Forever, which is one of my favorite songs from them. But the album's good, but just the next albums where they kind of blend that little, where it's more experimental, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Like, they mix songs with lights, but they're still super heavy. Then the next albums where they hire a keyboard player, but the guitar player is still there. So the guitar player from Bring Me the Horizon is still there. And that they hire a keyboard player, so it gets a little softer. And then that guitar player leaves, and then it goes straight into like happy song and stuff. Like you could tell that was the guy that was keeping them sort of heavy. Like their Sempiternal album, that's where they first get the keyboard player, but the guitar player is still there.
Right.
And Ollie still screamed, and then the next album he didn't.
He just sang. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that new song Luden by them. I don't know if you listened to it, but
no, I like that one. Yeah. It's a a blend between the two styles.
Yeah. All right. So we spent 20 minutes on 2010. That's
all right.
2011. Let's hear your movie.
Movie. Right. Okay. We're going back and forth. Okay. Movie. 2011 is Drive. Ryan Gosling.
It's a very good movie. I've only seen it once, but I love it. Like,
yeah. I've only seen it a couple times. So like, if it's, it's not one of those ones I return to all the time, but I remember really, really liking it in the theater. It's got like a really cool atmosphere. I remember that jacket with the scorpion on the back.
Yeah.
Whatever designer designed that, like it sold out that year because like he was just such a badass character in that movie.
Yeah, that was an awesome movie, and it wasn't anything. I find sometimes movies try and go a little too over the top, and they kind of they fall kind of almost flat. And that's kind of how I felt about the new Star Wars movie. Like, you're expecting a Star Wars movie to be like this epic adventure. I know you're not a big Star Wars fan, but if you watch the older movies, they're not like nothing's over the top. Where like the last couple, like they're trying to make it like this giant, like kind of like Avengers sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's a little too much. Where Drive, like it's just like it's almost perfect, right? Like
it's self-contained, like it's all there, and it's action packed. It's got it's the atmosphere. I think it's like really moody.
Yeah.
And dark. And there's something about I don't know who did the score in that one, but there's something about the music in that movie too that's really intense.
Yeah. I'm noticing scores a bit more in movies than ever before. I don't know if I guess you've always kind of noticed it, but
a little bit. I mean, I don't know. Some stand out more than others. Like when you notice it, it's either really good or really bad. So I guess that's a good sign.
Yeah. So 2011 was not a great year for movies for me. So not for me, but like I couldn't, like I'm looking at it again now, and like there's a lot of superhero movies that come out that year, but they're all like the bad ones, like the first Captain America, the first Thor, the last Harry Potter movie came out, which was pretty good, but I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites. But I picked another comedy.
Okay.
Horrible Bosses.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I still watch that movie. Like Sam loves that movie, and like I just find like Charlie Day and Jason Sudeikis like so funny, and that movie, I don't know, I just really enjoy it. Not a great year for movies for me, but I guess not for me, enough. But nothing came out, nothing that like stuck out to me, except for Horrible Bosses. So easy year.
Okay. Fair enough. Right on.
And let's go albums.
Okay. 2011, I have Foo Fighters, Wasting Light. So that one, like acknowledging it's not the best Foo Fighters album. I don't think it's maybe top 3, but there are some really, really good Foo Fighters albums ahead of this one that I would put. But it's kind of the situation for this one because it was the last year of my undergrad at Carleton, and I went on a big a big trip to Europe with my buddies, and I loaded up my iPod at the time with a bunch of albums, and the Foo Fighters one had just come out. So this album was kind of the soundtrack to my vacation.
Yeah.
Like the first like overseas vacation that I ever took, and I listened to it the whole plane ride. So this one has like White Limo on it.
Yeah.
It has These Days and a couple other.
Burning Bridge. Yeah. I'm looking at it now. Yeah. And I remember a lot of these songs because it was like I was working at K-Rock at the time, right? So like a lot of these songs stick out to me, and like like there's certain like Foo Fighters albums, the Something from Nothing song. Like I remember that one like being like, oh my god, like that was something amazing. White Limo. I remember when hearing it, I was like, this is different from Foo Fighters.
It was heavy.
Yeah.
Lots of distortion.
different
than what they usually do.
And I do love that album. And Bridge Burning, man, I remember that song because it's got like a 50-second intro or something crazy like that. So we would have, if we played it, we would have to talk over the 50 seconds. And I remember like,
Right.
you know, when you in radio, like you have full stop downs when you can do like full stories, when like that's when you go into commercials, right? Because you never want to stop the music. Well, also like you wouldn't want to leave any, if there's like a slow intro like Bridge Burning, you're gonna need to talk over it. But you'd have to think of 50 seconds to talk over. So usually like a sweep like that, you do weather or a contest, but then you got to stretch it out for 50 seconds. Like,
got to hit that mark, right?
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about hitting, I think it's called hitting the post, where you got to hit right on where it comes, like the music comes.
You got to hit the post.
The voice comes in, sorry.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's not necessarily it's not necessarily the voice, but like say, what's that Metallica song that Kid Rock ripped off?
Oh, Sad But True.
Yeah, Sad But True.
Yeah.
So when you're doing that song, right, you don't hit the post, or like you don't hit when James Hetfield starts singing. You hit the da 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 da, because you don't want to talk over that, right? So most of the time it's the lyrics, but in certain situations it's the
opening riff kind of thing.
The thing that steals the song, right? Like
that makes sense.
My favorite album of that year. This was a tough one because I remember an album that Memphis Mayfire, The Hollow. That album was like the only album I listened to in 2011. And, you know, like I still like Memphis Mayfire, but everything they've done since has just been kind of like not as good as The Hollow. I love that album front and back. I still listen to it. That year, 2011, I don't think I listened to pretty much anything but The Hollow. And then another album that came out that year, and I don't even think I listened to it that year, but now I listen to it more, is an Attila album, Outlaw. So that was a tough year for me to pick because I was like, what I listen to now, but I didn't listen to it in 2011. The other one I only listened to in 2011. So
yeah,
I think I got to pick The Hollow, though. That was my, I don't know if you ever checked it out, but.
No, those two, you talk about both those bands all the time. And for whatever reason, I can think Memphis Mayfire a little bit, I've heard. Attila, I've never been able to get into.
That's okay.
About it. For some reason, it's not my style. But
that's okay. You know, we have different tastes in movies and different tastes in music sometimes, but
that's why this is fun.
There's some middle ground, you know, like, you know?
Oh yeah. So. My music picks get a little bit heavier as the decade goes on. So that's interesting. But, all right. So 2012.
Oh yeah.
All right. So I have Skyfall, the James Bond from that year.
Oh, I liked that one. That was the one with, what was the bad guy? He had like a face problem, right? Or no?
Yeah.
I like that one.
Was, who's the actor that plays him? It's going to bug me. But it had a really, I don't know, I think Bond movies go kind of like back and forth. There's one that's really good, and then 2 years later, there's one that's not so good. And they've, throughout the decade, I think they've gone in a pattern of like good, not good, good, not good. And I think Skyfall was the best one.
Yeah.
Of all of them. Javier Bardem.
Oh, yeah. Oh, what else has he been in? Like, he's always... Oh, he was in Pirates. That's what I know him from.
No Country for Old Men.
Yeah. I like that actor. He's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he was a really, really good villain.
See, my favorite James Bond movie was Casino Royale. And I think it was because at the time it came out, we were like hanging out with Alex a lot, and he loved poker. Or like, I think you had just went off to school and I hadn't gone off to school yet, or I was in Belleville or whatever. And we just like watched so much of that fucking movie. And like,
it was so good. And I think a few of us, if not all of us, were still working at the theater at the time.
Yeah.
So I remember, seeing that multiple
over
times.
And over again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Skyfall, that was a good one. I don't think I saw the most recent James Bond movie. And it's weird because it's like I always liked James Bond movies. Oh, Casino Royale was 2006. Spectre, I never saw.
It's not memorable for me, so I don't know. That's probably one of the ones that's not as good.
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
I didn't realize how many movies Daniel Craig was James Bond in.
Yeah, quite a few, and there's a new one next year.
Yeah, it looks like 6 or 5. Cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, that was I remember that one a good one. I also remember we went around that time to a James Bond museum. Remember that?
Oh yeah,
around that time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the TIFF theater, they have like these exhibits that come through, and that was a really cool one. Some of them are kind of artsy and you don't really get. This one had a lot of appeal. It had like the Golden Gun, and it had a few other like really cool props that you remember from movies. So
Yeah.
that was yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, we got pizza with a hot dog in it as well, and the Hockey Hall of Fame. That was a good trip.
That was back when those things were fun, and we didn't have jobs, and we just kind of were like, "What do you want to do today?"
Yeah,
Order pizza with a hot dog.
yeah, and I've never had it since. That year, easy pick for me because I think it changed, like comic book movies. Like it, is Avengers. Like Avengers came out in
The
2012.
first one.
The first one, and you go back now and watch it, and you're like, it's still a good movie. Like it's still fun, but like. There's 5 superheroes where like, the most recent Avengers, there's 200 superheroes. Right. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that one just, like had so much in it and, it was a lot of fun. And there's some like, like, again, like you go back now, there's some great movies that stuck out from 2012. Like Wreck-It Ralph is one of my favorite movies, 21 Jump Street or Django Unchained. Cause I love Quentin Tarantino, but, yeah, that I just got Avengers changed. I think the way box office movies are now, and that was the one that kicked it off.
From then on in, sorry, I was going to say like from 2012 through the rest of the decade, it was all Avengers. Like every year, I think. Well, I don't know about the box office, but I think every year, top 3, there was an Avengers movie. Like
yeah,
dominated from there on.
Yeah, and it's obviously the highest grossing movie ever, or not Avengers, but yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was easily my pick. What'd you think of the new? I guess we can wait till 2019 for that one. I was gonna say, but the new Quentin Tarantino one.
Oh right, okay, all right. Well, actually, I still haven't seen it yet, so I can tell you that right now.
Oh, okay. Well, then I won't spoil, but
okay.
It's good. It's good. I think you might like it.
I think so too. We were gonna watch it the other night. We watched. What did we watch? Dolomite instead, and that was really funny. So.
Oh, I want to see that. That's good.
Yeah, that was good.
All right. 2012 albums.
This was a weird year. Didn't really have much. This one would not even be on your radar. But Metric, their album Synthetica.
I don't think I've ever listened to it. I kind of remember Metric. Didn't they play it like Queens a lot or something?
They're. I don't know if they're from Kingston or a band member is from Kingston, but they do have a connection.
Yeah.
Metric's had a lot of hits. They're a big Canadian band. That Synthetica album, it just had a lot of like higher tempo songs. Like they're not heavy, of course, but higher tempo songs that kind of got my attention.
Yeah.
And I just remember listening to it a lot that year. I couldn't come up with anything else. Like that's kind of a weak year for me for whatever reason.
I 100% agree. That's that year is a little if like a little weird, for sure. There was nothing like for me. I picked Parkway Drive Atlas.
Okay.
It's not even my favorite Parkway Drive album, but there's some songs on it that I absolutely love. And I'm not a huge fan of Parkway Drive's newest album or the most recent 2 albums. So that was probably my last favorite Parkway album. And like it's one of those albums where you put on, you listen to from front to back and you love it. But like I can really only name like 4 or 5 songs on it because I always listen to it in its entirety,
Right.
But there's a song Dark Days that's one of my favorite Parkway songs, but I just had not like it seemed like everything came out in 2013, and that was like a hard year for me to pick. Like, well, we'll get to that, but yeah, 2012 it was like I had nothing to compete with Atlas, so I was like, guess this is it,
Yeah, fair enough.
But you picked Metric, so
yeah.
So I think we're in the same boat.
Are we back? Wait, did we do movies first?
Yeah. So now we're in 2013. We're running through
2013. Okay. 2013. I've got. This was a tough one actually. 2013 is a big year for movies, for me. So I have Wolf of Wall Street. 2013.
Okay.
Had you seen Wolf of Wall Street?
No.
No.
I watched parts of it. It's not something I like. I don't not want to watch. It's something like it was on Netflix. It was just like it's something I'd like to see, but it's like sometimes you just don't have like 3 hours to sit and watch a movie.
It's a long one.
Yeah. And that was done from same guy who did Goodfellas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Scorsese.
I have I want to see it. Yeah, it's just something I've never sat down and pushed play on.
Well, it's a Scorsese and Leo movie, and
Yeah.
every time they get together, like they were in
Departed.
Yeah, thank you. And Margot Robbie, it's her first like big role. She was amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, like really good performances, really good movie. The other one I had, more of like a blockbuster one, Pacific Rim. Do you remember Pacific Rim?
I saw that on the list and I was like, oh fuck, I love that first movie, but I couldn't tell you if it was my favorite movie of 2013. Like,
yeah, I couldn't put it ahead of Wolf of Wall Street, but I remember coming out of the theater.
yeah.
Like for some reason I'll always remember this, and because like everything in the movie was so big, right?
Yeah.
Like these monsters and these robots were like, I don't know, hundreds of stories tall. So I come out of the theater in downtown Toronto and I'm looking up and I'm just like, if that were to happen, what would it look like? Because like you've got the CN Tower for scale, you've got all these tall buildings, and I was just like walking around being like, that was such a cool movie. I'm like in the downtown, like how it would destroy the city.
It was a very comic booky movie without having, like without being a comic book, or based off of a comic book. And I've tried to sit down and watch that next one, and it's like the second one, like I've tried like probably 5 times. I push play and I'm just on my phone. I'm like, I have no interest in watching this. I don't get it. And it's not like I don't like the actor. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's one that should have stuck to the one movie.
Yeah. That year, so we're in 2013. Yeah. I had to pull up some movies. I picked a Michael Bay movie, which you're probably going to hate, but it's the Michael Bay movie with, I think there's only one explosion in it.
Okay.
And it's based on a true story, Pain and Gain. I just absolutely love
The
Rock and Mark Wahlberg in it. And like, it's like this crime kind of movie, but a comedy. Like, I really like it. And like, I think it was like The Rock, like around that time he was making some pretty shitty movies. And
this one kind of turned it around, because like towards the end he was making some better choices, right?
Yeah. But like, there's just a part where he's like on cocaine. He like lost his finger, I think it is, or his toe. I think it's his toe. Yeah. And he's just like riddled on, like just wrecked on cocaine. And they're like, you look like shit. And he's like, I feel awesome. And it's like, I always remember that. But that year had like World War Z. It had The World's End, which is, you know, it's a good movie, but again, not one of my favorites. Just no big superhero movies. The fifth Die Hard, which is the worst Die Hard.
Yeah, that wouldn't make my list.
And no big comic book movies, because it was like the year following Avengers, so they had they had Thor 2, but that was about it. So
right, okay.
Yeah, I feel like we agree on 2013 being a slow year. No, you like Wolf of Wall Street. Never mind.
I like Wolf of Wall Street. 2012 was a slow year, but 2013 it was okay for me. So music. So I have 2 here that are completely different for different reasons. So have to put number 1. You're gonna laugh, but Justin Timberlake, 2020 Experience.
Was that the one with Suit and Tie?
Suit and Tie, Mirrors, had a ton of hits, but just at that point in that point in my life, and I had been in Toronto for a few years. Leslie and I were just moving in together. This was an album we listened to all the time.
Yeah.
Mirrors ended up as our first dance song, right? So it has a special place.
I get it. Yeah. I like Justin Timberlake. I've just never, it's kind of weird. Like I grew up in the 90s as like a Backstreet Boy kind of fan. And then, so you could never really you're like always like, well, Justin Timberlake was NSYNC, right. But I always liked Justin Timberlake. Like, I think I
was the NSYNC guy. So I was the same thing. I never really got the Backstreet Boys. I was an NSYNC guy. I don't know. And also, I guess I would rank it number 2, but Monster Truck's first album. So Monster Truck remains one of my favorite bands ever. And they had an EP, and 2013 was the first year they put out an actual album.
Oh yeah. Oh, I remember that album because I was working at K-Rock. Like again, I remember all this stuff because I was like working at K-Rock at the time.
Yeah,
Um,
which is really interesting for your music picks because, like, I think the stuff you've picked so far is a little bit heavier than stuff that K Rock would play, right?
yeah, like I always like think like because you like stuff from that year, but um yeah, I always like albums, but like when you're working in them, it's almost hard to enjoy them, I guess, a little bit. Like you like enjoy them on like a work standpoint, and like so like I don't know, maybe it's like think about like a cook, like you like
Hmm.
you're a cook. It's sometimes you might not like some of the food. I don't know that you make. I don't
I
know.
know, I get that for
I
sure.
guess I'm not
But,
making the music, but I'm talking about it so much. I'm hearing it so much that like it's almost not like it loses its kind of like specialness to me. Like
yeah.
you there's some songs from 2000. So that Monster Truck song that had that song. Like I remember we listened to it. I forget. I want to say Smoking or Seven. What's
Uh,
that big song from that album?
Sweet Mountain River.
Sweet Mountain River, yeah. I can't remember the name of it now, but like I must have listened to that song, you know, over 1,000. It was over 1,000 times because we also did like a free concert with Monster Truck that year,
Oh yeah.
and like again, I love them. I think I was telling you about them back then too, but I just like
Hmm.
yeah, that
Yeah.
year.
Well, and they're from Hamilton, so it's not too far.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think they did a lot of Kingston shows.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, like they played the Mansion, and it was like they're too big for the Mansion. Like it's too loud in here. Like we gotta do something about it.
Oh, did I lose you?
Nope. Oh,
Oh, okay. There we go.
you can see.
Sorry,
Yeah.
you were frozen for a second. All right.
2013 for me was a year. There's a lot of like good albums that came out. The Devil Wears Prada had an album. Attila, About That Life is probably one of my favorite albums from them. But it was an easy year to pick because my favorite album, like probably top 3 favorite album ever, came out that year. A Day to Remember, Common Courtesy. I
Oh
don't know if you
yeah,
ever
I
listened
like
to that
that one.
album, but
Yep.
I fucking love that album. Like everything about it. Like they do stuff like you can hear them in the studio before a song, and there's like one song where the guy does like a little melody of it with his mouth, but you can hear it like in the studio where he's trying to think of this like his melody,
That's
and
cool.
then they get in the song, and then like at the end of the song, the last song's called I Remember, and it's them talking about like starting off in the early 2000s traveling in this bus, and like it's like 10 minutes of this just them talking in the studio. And like yeah, I'm a huge Day to Remember fan, but that album, like it was like a hard rock album that was experimental as well. Like you know they had songs that would like have like 30 seconds of like almost as like you think the song's ending, and then all of a sudden like they come back in with another breakdown. So
Right.
absolutely love that album. And then About That Life, one of my favorite albums as well from Tilla, but that album had the song Shots for the Boys on, which we crushed at the bachelor party.
Right. Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. So,
To a point, and then I didn't remember that.
yeah, that was a interesting year. But yeah, like there's a lot of like really great albums from a lot of my favorite bands that year. But it was just like A Day to Remember's Common Courtesy, like just took the cake, you know?
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like how there's a story behind it a little bit, like with the, talking about their history. And I'm noticing with some of my picks that like there's some reason the album has more meaning than just the songs. Like there's reasons for it, which is kind of
Hmm.
interesting as you look through the decade.
Yeah.
Um,
And A Day to Remember always makes me like feel young. I know it sounds silly, but like they always just like take like even though like I only started listening to them in college, like their music is kind of like a mix of like hardcore, but like with this like Blink 182 kind of feeling, and it like reminds me of being like 16. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but
I think that's good. I mean, hitting 30 now, I think that's always good.
Yeah. All right, let's go into movies for 2014.
Okay, 2014. This is a good one that I remember a lot. I don't know if it wasn't a huge box office one, but I think it's on Netflix. Edge of Tomorrow,
Oh, I like that movie. Yeah.
the one with Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt.
I think I only saw it in 2014, but it was a good year. Yeah.
It's
That was a
like
good,
I've seen it a
good
couple times on
movie.
Netflix.
Yeah.
It's got a cool premise because it's like a Groundhog Day mixed with like an alien action flick, and it's
Yeah.
pretty funny too. Because there's one point where Tom Cruise he figures out that he has to relive this one day over and over again, and he can't get. It's almost like playing a video game. He can't get past this one spot.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember it, but like he wakes
Vaguely.
up.
Yeah.
He's on like this army base, and they're like off to fight an alien war. And
Yeah.
then like there's one point where he like isn't looking and gets hit by a truck, and then like wakes up and has to relive it again. And so like, okay, he's like, watch out for that truck. Then he like goes over to another place and he, I don't know, gets hit by a stray bullet. And it's like, oh, so it's like he's like playing a level of a video game for like part of the movie.
Yeah. And I remember watching it and liking it. Like it was one of those movies where you like finish it, you're like, oh, that's great. And then you forget about it until you like see something about it. So, yeah.
I'm a Tom Cruise fan. Leslie was talking to me about like her favorite movies, and she, or was it her or one of my friends? They just couldn't get into Tom Cruise. They were just like, he doesn't do it for me.
For me, he's hit or miss. Like I love him in Mission Impossible movies. Like I watched Top Gun this year for the first time. Absolutely loved it. Outsiders is one of my favorite movies. I don't remember if you remember like reading The Outsiders in elementary school, like and watching the movie.
I don't know. I don't remember that one as much.
Oh, like it was so good, but like you go back and like every actor's in it. Like Tom Cruise before his teeth get fixed, Patrick Swayze, not Matt Damon, Matt Dillon, the Karate Kid, not John Maggio, whatever his name is.
Like I know who you mean. Yeah.
And you know, like I remember there's so much shit we had to read in elementary school, but that one, like I actually enjoyed reading. And and like so Tom Cruise is in it, and I've kind of always liked him since. So
right on.
But like I'm not like gonna go see a movie because of Tom Cruise, you know?
Right. Well, I get it. All right. What do you got for movie?
2014. I thought this was probably my toughest years to pick a movie because it had Guardians, X-Men: Days of Future Past, which is my favorite X-Men movie. I'm not even a big X-Men fan, but that one was really good. Captain America: The Winter Soldier, the one with GSP in it, which is like said to be the like people think it's the best comic book movie. You know, it's up there. And then one of my favorite comedies came out that year as well, The Interview with Seth Rogen and James Franco. I watched that like 2 weeks ago with Grant because he loves that movie, and like we had a little Christmas dinner, and so I picked Guardians because I remember that one was just like amazing. Like the soundtrack, like everything about that movie was just fun. And again, it was one of those movies that I like. It was good, but it didn't feel like it needed to go over the top. Like it wasn't too crazy. And like their second movie, they went a little too crazy where he's like fighting God, who's his dad, and it's like, oh
yeah, that was a bit weird. Guardians was really cool though because I knew I didn't see it right away. I can't remember if I saw it in theaters or not, but it was I had no idea who the characters were from the comic books, right? Like they're there's a raccoon, there's a tree. Like it doesn't make sense to the average person when you would explain it, but it works so well, I think, just because of the writing.
Yeah, and, the writing and the cast. Yeah,
the cast.
The thing about Guardians was like, so Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man, like, they're household names when it comes to superheroes, right? Batman, etc. Guardians of the Galaxy was a series that they had started in the like late 80s and nobody read. It got canceled in like 20 issues, which is not a lot for comics, especially Marvel in the 80s. And then they tried to reboot it like in the early 2000s and still didn't go very far. And then they rebooted it again when the movie was coming out. But it was not a comic book household name. And then this movie, now everyone knows about Guardians, but they've never really had a good comic series. It's kind of like, so they're working on a new Marvel movie called The Eternals, I think it's called. Or Kumal is in it. Kumal from Silicon Valley, and
who's Jack now?
He's Jack,
picture, right?
Yeah, so me and Sam finished Silicon Valley this morning. Actually, we love that show. So that's another movie where it's like people are like, nobody knows who these characters are because nobody ever read the comic. So they're not like a household comic name. Like I've never read an Eternal comic. I couldn't tell you one character from it. But they're making this movie with Kumal and it's going to be amazing, right? Because it's, so that's kind of how I felt about Guardians, but.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Albums. This was a shitty year for me.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, so Leslie texted me from the other room, says, "Don't forget to mention Taylor Swift's Red in 2014."
Oh, see, that wasn't one of my favorite Taylor Swift albums because she was still country at the time.
She was still country. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm, as I would say like out of Taylor's albums, like the ones towards the end of the decade where she gets a little bit more experimental are pretty cool.
Yeah.
I, at this time, Leslie and I were living together, but we weren't really sharing a lot of our music preferences. So I didn't listen to Red a lot.
Yeah. So Red was in 2013 because I actually
Was it? Okay.
I actually have a Taylor Swift album in my 2014.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I don't
Spoiler
think
alert.
Red was in that year. No,
All
Red
right.
was 2012. So tell her she's wrong.
All right. I will.
Yeah.
I will.
Because I picked
Uh,
I picked a Taylor Swift album in 2014, but then I also had a metal album.
Okay. So 2014, I have kind of another tie. And again, two different types of music. One is Royal Blood's first album, just self-titled, called Royal Blood.
That's a great album, yeah.
Yeah. And they are just like, I think they're the perfect, I don't know, band and style of music for me. Them and Monster Truck, I think they put out like straightforward, bluesy, rock, heavy bass drum, just like really, straightforward,
Yeah.
heavy stuff,
And
without being too metal. Just like rock and roll.
it's like, yeah, it's edgy, it's rock and roll. It's not full on like a hardcore and like,
Mhm.
but like it's fun, yeah. And they only have 2 members, right? Royal Blood.
Yep, that's it. They have a drummer and then a guitarist / bassist. When they tour, they have more,
Yeah.
but they're kind of like a White Stripes, where one guy writes the riffs and then the other one.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, like, I guess it's kind of a theme because the Black Keys are 2 guys as well. So maybe I
Yes.
just like duos.
Yeah. All right. My 2014 pick. Well, we talked about it earlier. Taylor Swift's 1989.
Okay, so there was some meaning behind that.
Yeah, Shake It Off. Like I absolutely love that album, that song. Like that album had style and you just read all the songs. Blank Space, Bad Blood, Wildest Dreams. And that was the year I got to see Taylor Swift live too. So with with your wife Leslie. So tell her that Red was 2012 and 1989 was 2000.
I'd yell at her in the other room, but she's still laid up in her cast, so it's not like she's gonna.
Oh yeah. Is that going better?
Yeah, it's going better. She's a lot more mobile now. It's still going to be a couple weeks, but she's going to get another X-ray and hopefully move into a walking boot soon.
Cool.
So then she'll be able to walk around a little bit.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And then I picked like Mushroom Head, or I was like, oh, Mushroom Head had an album that year, and Slipknot, The Gray Chapter. But I was like, none of these like I care about. I don't listen to now. So it's like that was a year where 2013 there was like 15 albums that came out that I loved, that I still listen to, but 2014 like not one. Like.
I had a tie. There was another album that I wanted to mention, and so I don't know if I told you this story, but have I told you the story of the band Always?
No.
They're a Canadian band from Toronto. They're like kind of an indie rock band, fronted by this girl named Molly. And but quick story: when I was working at the pizza place in this period of the decade, I was working with a bunch of people who were bartenders, servers, and everybody had like a side gig going on. They were artists or whatever. And this girl was like, "Oh, I play in a band. You should come out to a show sometime." And I was always like, "Yeah, sure." And when your colleague tells you they're in a band, you're not sure if if they're just starting out or whether they're good or whatever. And so then a couple months later, she just disappears off the schedule completely. And I was kind of wondering, like, where'd Molly go? And it turns out that she went on a European tour with the band. And then shortly after that, put out their first album, and they killed it. Like, I guess it's on like indie rankings, right? So it's on like sites like Pitchfork and stuff. So it's a little bit hipster indie, but from that point on, never saw her again. But I was a really good friend of hers, and then now she's just a rock star.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So, and that album came out in 2014, and the song "Marry Me Archie" was the song I in the background that I proposed to Leslie with.
Oh, okay.
So cool. It's kind of like a personal.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah. I'd still say Royal Blood I listen to more now. But
that song that album has meaning to you, and Like, yeah, 100% get it.
Mhm.
All right, so we're almost at an hour, so we might pick up the pace a bit.
Pick up the pace. All right, let's do
Yeah.
it.
Because I try and keep episodes around an hour, hour and a half.
We
Not that I
could
don't
cut
want
it
to
in
do.
half
No.
and go.
Not that I don't want to do 3-hour episodes, but like I have to pay for, I pay for what I can put out monthly, and so if I do like longer episodes, I have to put out less episodes.
Send me a bill. It's fine.
No, it's not that. It's just, you know what I mean. Like,
No, for sure. I'm kidding.
Yeah, if I want to do 3 episodes a month, I got to keep them to an hour and a half or so. 2015 movies.
Okay, Mad Max Fury Road is 2015 for me.
Never finished it,
Really?
and I hear it's one of the best movies ever.
Yep. I loved it. It was cool. What made you not finish it? Like, was there a particular scene that you couldn't get past, or just too long?
No, me and Sam were watching it one night, and like it was interesting, and it's a long movie, and I think we were just exhausted, and we were watching it like on an illegal cable box or whatever we had at the time, and I was just, you were exhausted, and we were like, okay, we'll finish this another time, and then she wasn't really into it, and it was just like, it's one of those movies, like if it came out on Netflix, I would immediately be like, okay, I'm gonna set some time aside and watch it, right? Because I've always wanted to watch it, but I've never seen it like in a $3 bin. Like I've just never, like maybe I should just rent it because I rent tons of stuff on Xbox. But
you should rent it. It's like visually, it's a really good movie, and I think like as I'm scrolling through my movie picks, I think almost all of these I've seen in the theater.
Yeah,
which really helps because like a movie like Mad Max or like a James Bond one, like they're always more memorable, I think, in the theater. So definitely, there's movies that should have been on my list that I watched on my computer and didn't really, So I get it.
Yeah. 2015 was another year where I don't think there was a lot of movies that came out that I really liked, but Star Wars: The Force Awakens. I love that movie, so I picked it. Like it came out late in 2015, but it was like that was like a Star Wars movie where I watched multiple times. Creed came out, but Ant-Man, there's an Avengers movie, but it wasn't. It was probably the worst Avengers movie, Age of Ultron. I like it, but and then like Magic Mike came out that year too, so not a stellar year for movies that I enjoy. So 2015, let's go albums.
All right. This could be the heaviest one on my list. Lamb of God, Sturm und Drang.
Love that album.
How do you say that? Sturm und Drang? Something like that?
Yeah.
That's the one where he got out of jail, right? Yeah. And that's just for that fact alone, like the songs have a lot more meaning. Because he's talking about the cell he was in, talking about, reflecting on the crime he committed. Like that's heavy.
It's a very good album, and it's probably my favorite probably favorite Lamb of God album aside from Wrath. Like Wrath I listened to front and back a lot, and then again it didn't come out in 2012, or I would have picked that one probably, and then that one. Funny thing about Sturm und Drang is that game I play a lot, Destiny. I played a lot. They actually, like, a lot of their weapons and stuff, like, don't come from anywhere. They, like, make them up or whatever, but they have a weapon combo. It's the only weapon combo in the game where if you use 2 weapons, they work better together, and it's Sturm and Drang.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's the only combo in the game where if you use, or I guess they added a second one recently, but if you use one, you can use the other, and it works well.
Right.
So,
I don't even know. Do you know what it means?
No, not a clue. I could probably find it in somewhere in Destiny lore or whatever. Where did I pick? Oh, so 2015, I picked 2 albums because one, it's not an album, it's an EP. I have it. Let me see if I can find it. It's right here. So it is easily my favorite album ever. Okay, but it's only 5 songs. It's only 5 songs. So it's Devil Wears Prada Space EP. And it's my favorite. So bought it on vinyl. I don't even have vinyl player. It was like one of the first vinyls I bought, and it's cool, glow in the dark.
Oh, right on.
There's a white vinyl that glows in the dark. It's all about space and aliens, and it's just I love it. Like I put it on. It's about 30 minutes long. And
That's super cool. I should check that out because that seems like a 5 or 6 song EP about space. So
yeah,
I'd be into it.
yeah. So like it's got like, like a song Supernova, one of my favorite songs. I walk out to it sometimes fighting. It's like this sweet guitar riff. And then they've got a song called Alien that is like super fast and then like super heavy. And then one about going to an unknown planet where hence the aliens are. And
Right.
then yeah, it's just a conceptual album that I absolutely love. So I picked that one, but it's not a full album. It's 5 songs.
Still counts. I'll
And
give
then
it to you.
I picked it back up, Matriarch by Veil Maya, which is it's this really cool, heavy album where like each song is it's another conceptual album where each song they pick like what's the word I'm looking for? Not a real person, but a fictional character.
Okay.
And but it's like a female, and they kind of the song's not about the females, but it's kind of they're I guess what's the word I'm looking for, but
Their perspective or their
yeah, something along that lines. Daenerys from Game of Thrones is one of the songs.
Okay.
So I really like the album. It's a good guitar riff album too. And unfortunately, Veil of Maya, they've kind of been all over the place. They switched singers, and just that was the album that I thought was good from them. And then everything else since it's
Yeah.
But so
Okay. Those are good picks.
Yeah.
Make him sound pretty cool. I should check him out. What are we at? Movies again? 2016, right?
Yeah.
Okay. First Marvel movie for me on the list, Captain America: Civil War.
That's my my number 1 as well.
Hey, high five.
Yeah.
Nice.
Spider-Man, Tom Holland shows up. He's easily the best Spider-Man ever. Yeah. I'll fight anyone who disagrees. That movie.
It's a great intro for him too, right? And
yeah.
I mean, it kind of sucked that you saw it in the trailer. It would have been a cooler reveal because I was reading up on some movies of the decade, and it said that when Spider-Man was revealed, there's not when he was revealed, but it was a letdown that it was happened in the trailer because people were speculating about it the whole time. Whereas if it was kept as a surprise, maybe it was coming at the beginning of the movie or at the end, who knows? But
yeah, see, I remember. Well, see, I read everything about superhero movies at the time. And I remember knowing that Spider-Man was going to be in it. We didn't know how long he was going to be in it.
Okay.
So a lot of people speculated it was going to be a post-cut scene, but yeah, I guess they put him in the trailer. Yeah, you're right. How cool would it be to see it for the first time?
For the first time, yeah.
But it was a big deal for Marvel movies because one, Civil War is amazing in the comics, and having Iron Man versus Captain America is one thing. So you're trying to the problem with the Captain America movies, they were the first, they were good movies, but they didn't sell too well. So they probably threw them into yes, Iron Man's in this as well, but here, please come see this movie because it's really good, sort of thing.
Yeah, and it was kind of it was almost an Avengers movie without being an Avengers movie.
Yeah,
and it had everybody in it, but it was still called Captain America. So
yeah, that's that one is my favorite Avengers movie. So even though it's Captain America, favorite superhero movie, hands down, it's got to be
Civil War.
Civil War,
more than the more recent ones, more than Infinity War.
Yeah. I love Infinity War. Spoiler alert, we're going to talk about that in a bit. And Endgame, I love Endgame in that, but it's just my favorite. It's just everything about that movie is just fun for me. There's not even a real villain. It's just I think it's well done and cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked another movie. I picked a second movie that year just because I love the movie, and the movie probably they've been talking about making that movie for 9 years. It was Deadpool.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right.
I really like that movie. It's not even super high budget, but I don't know if you know the story on how Deadpool came to be the movie, right? Because they always talked about it with Ryan Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
They did a little CGI thing that Ryan Reynolds voiced, and it was just to sell to the studio, hey, this is what the movie will kind of look like. And the movie was absolutely dead. Fox had no interest in making the movie because they didn't want to do an R-rated superhero movie that they didn't think was going to sell. Ryan Reynolds, he's yet to admit this, but he leaked the CGI video.
Oh, okay.
And people went
on Twitter or something.
Yeah, he leaked it on the internet. It didn't come from his Twitter account, but he had the CGI video and it got out somehow.
Okay.
He says it wasn't him, but you know, and that's how, like, the movie, like, they had been talking about making that movie since X-Men Origins with Wolverine, where Ryan Reynolds is in it.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been talking about making that movie for that long, and it just never got done until Ryan Reynolds released that CGI video, and then people went crazy about it, and Fox released it.
Yeah.
And, you know,
He's the perfect character for that, or the perfect actor for that character, right?
yeah, like,
I think it's kind of smart for him to release it.
and Deadpool's like actually Canadian and real in the comics, and then like Ryan Reynolds is Canadian, and like it's like it's one of those things where like you can't look at Wolverine without thinking about Hugh Jackman, and you can't you can't think about Deadpool without thinking about Ryan Reynolds. Where Batman, you know, like 8 Batmans come to mind, you know, like so
no, you're right,
because none of them were just ever the best Batman. So
perfect casting.
2017, let's go.
2017 music. So this one, kind of similar to other things on my list, but Dan Auerbach, who is the guitar player for the Black Keys. So he released a solo album that year. It's called Wait.
Are we on 2016, I think?
Oh, shoot. We're on 2016.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
so
right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right.
Sorry,
you're right.
my bad.
Okay, so 2016, easy one, Metallica Hardwired.
Oh, that was 2016. That's crazy. It feels like it just came out recently.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's 4 years ago. Jesus, that feels like the newest Metallica album's 4 years ago.
The newest one. Yeah, because they waited so long between them. I think they wait maybe 8 years between them. So every time they release new music, it's like brand new. Yeah, we saw that tour. It was far and away the best album they've put out in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
You know, since
Black Album.
Yeah.
Well, hands down. Yeah.
Yeah, super heavy stuff. Not every track is great, but like there's enough on there that it automatically becomes the best Metallica album of the 2000s.
Yeah.
Easily.
This year, easy pick for me again. Like I know there was a lot of good albums, but and it's not even my favorite Day to Remember album, but Bad Vibrations. That album came out the week I lost my job, right? Or like the week after I lost my job with Bell. And, you know, like, you know, you're upset, and then just an album can make you feel 100% better. And, or no, sorry. Yeah. Like it came. Yeah. And I was in California and I couldn't sleep because of the time change. And I was going to fight. And like, just like everything's going wrong, right? Like it seems like in my life, even though I'm in California about to fight, but like, you know, I lost a fight. Like I was supposed to fight in Ottawa and it fell through. And here I am in California. I don't know anybody. I'm wandering the streets at 6 o'clock in the morning, looking for a convenience store, listening to this album, Bad Vibrations. Got it on vinyl again. And, nice. It's just, it's, I don't think it's as good as Common Courtesy, but that album just, you know, was there. I guess it sounds cheesy, but it was there for me when I needed it. And A Day to Remember hasn't released an album since, but you know, they do that. They go like 3 years, 4 years without releasing albums, and just always are great. So I picked that album.
Right on. Oh, that's a good story.
Yeah.
Also, just a quick aside, 2016 was the Tragically Hip year. So I have, even though it's not an album, I mean, that summer was all Tragically Hip. No matter where you were in Canada, it was the summer of the hip. So they released the Man Machine Poem album that year, which, you know, I don't think is that memorable for me, but but like their music that summer was, I think, wall to wall, everywhere you went. So that was the year of the hip, and that tour, of course. Les and I were lucky enough to see the last show in Kingston, so it was
that's a
like,
pretty cool
for like a solid couple months. It was just all anybody was listening to. So.
Yeah. I thought the whole thing was pretty sad, obviously, and like I had met them all. I met Gord, you know, like he complimented my phone case, which was like an R2D2 phone case at the time, and I remember seeing them, you know, like it was great seats, but I didn't see that show. I saw their completely kind of like anniversary tour, and they played the whole album, which is their best album hands down, and you know, like so I didn't get to experience like the hip at the end where like, you know, everyone's going, but those are sad shows, you know, like I've seen the Alexis sad show where they break up, but even though they've came back, and I've seen them 4 times since, but you know, those shows are always kind of sad, and yeah, they're fun, but I have a memory of seeing them Tragically Hip, you know, like playing their best album front to back, Everyone's
Yeah.
healthy, and it's just it's a good night. So that's
Like a good rock show, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, there was a different air to the last show, obviously, right? Like it was great, but it was sad.
yeah.
Um,
Because
and it,
it's not even like they're breaking up like when you go see Motley Crue or whatever, right?
mhm.
It's he's not going to be here next year.
Yeah, and we didn't know, like, we knew how sick he was, but we didn't know whether it was going to be a couple months or a couple years before,
Yeah,
I think he passed away the next year. But
yeah,
and then it was
yeah,
also interesting to be there in person versus people telling me about watching the show on TV. I think it was a lot sadder, from what I gather, watching it on TV,
yeah,
because you're kind of just watching his face and watching his expressions. Where
yeah,
in the concert itself, it was a little bit more like you're just hearing the music and thinking about it, but not necessarily zeroing in on the fact that this guy is going through something. So it was
yeah.
it was interesting.
I had a friend who went to the show in Ottawa, and sitting next to her was Dion Phaneuf and Alicia Cuthbert.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just random because he played it for Ottawa at the time, right? So,
Right.
yeah.
There we go. There was a guy, actually, funny enough, there was a guy, we were on the floor, but we were back a ways. We got lucked out with our seats, but there was a guy in a Dion Phaneuf jersey sitting like a couple seats over. And the only reason I remember this is because he ended up proposing to his girlfriend during one of the songs. And so, like, earlier in the set, I looked at Leslie and I was like, look at this idiot with a Dion Phaneuf
Leafs jersey or
jersey, because I think he was playing for Ottawa at the time.
Yeah,
obviously it was. And I was like, look at this idiot. And then later on, he proposed to his girlfriend, and everybody's like, yeah, Dion Phaneuf guy, good for you.
Let's go on to 2017.
Okay, so wait, did we do the movies?
Yeah, we did 2016 movies.
Okay, good. I'm losing track. 2017. So this is the guitarist from the Black Keys. His name's Dan Auerbach. So this album, Waiting on.
We didn't do 2017 movies. Sorry.
Oh man, okay.
I was confused. I thought you meant did we do 2016 movies? Sorry. Okay, go on. Do Black Keys. We'll do albums.
Okay,
first.
I'll do that really, really quickly. So he's it's a solo album of his. It's still got the bluesy rock sound, but it's a really, really happy album. So talk about like situations and listening to things. I put this one on, Leslie and I put this one on just like when we want to feel happy. Like it's got just really, really like melodic songs, really like kind of upbeat and like, I don't know, it like you put it on when you're doing the dishes, put it on when you're doing whatever. It's just a kind of a feel good album.
Yeah.
And it's really well written stuff. So I
you like it
coming out. Yeah.
This one I didn't have a lot of pick from. I picked Eskimo Callboy, who it just seems like, they were a band that they got softer and softer and more melodic as every album went. Like if you listen to their first album, they're a Racket, Germany, fucking disco or a dance kind of metal band, and party band, and I just loved it, right? And then they got softer and softer and started singing more, and songs meant more, and I still loved it. And then this album, The Scene, came out, where it was probably, until their most recent album, was their softest album, but it still had that heavy vibe to it. It wasn't Racket, and well, I guess there's some songs for Racket. To most people, it'd be Racket, but to me, it was definitely more calm. And I remember listening to this album like every morning. I would get up because I was getting ready for the fight in Toronto that you were at. I was getting up and I would have to run at 2:30. I'd have to get up at 2:30 and I'd be running by 2:50 in the morning, right? Like 20 minutes sounds like a long time to wake up, but you got to walk your dogs, you got to drink some water. And then I'm out for a run, and it's cold, and, every morning I didn't want to do it. And, cause it's 3:00 in the morning, I don't want to be running on the street, but I had to do it. And I put that album on, and it, that fucking first track hits. First track's called Back in Business. And, I'm running, and,
nice.
Yeah. So that album fucking loved. Also, it's my two favorite bands, like Attila and Eskimo Callboy, and they, the singer from Attila was on an Eskimo Callboy song.
Perfect.
So it's just a fun fucking album for me. So I picked that one.
Nice.
Yeah. Let's hear a movie.
Okay.
So what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, we'll do 2017 movies, then we'll do 2018 movies, then we'll be back on track.
Yeah.
So 2017 movie, Get Out. It's my favorite.
I knew you were going to pick that one. I knew it.
Yeah?
I knew it. Yeah. I just knew you like it. Yeah. I watched Us last week.
Yeah.
I love Get Out. Yeah. Get Out's great.
Okay.
Yeah. Like definitely that was I pulled up all the movies that year.
Yep.
Wonder Woman, Last Jedi, which is probably the worst Star Wars movie. Blade Runner 2049.
I did like that. You didn't like it?
Blade Runner, I loved it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I really like that one.
Logan, Thor Ragnarok, which is everyone's favorite Thor movie. Spider-Man Homecoming, like that year had so many great movies.
I think I know yours though. I think I know yours.
Yeah. John Wick 2, Lucky Logan, Disaster Artist. That movie had so many great movies that year. What's mine? Do you know it?
I think so. Baby Driver?
Yes, 100%. It's one of those years where you're looking through and you're like, there's so much to pick from. Why aren't these movies in other years? Mm-hmm. And it's like, this is one of my favorite movies of all time, Baby Driver. Like it reigns supreme and I didn't watch it till like, I think last year or maybe about 2 years ago I watched it. So I guess 2017-ish or 2018. But I remember just like being at home and like, just, I don't know, like I was like, I watched Shaun of the Dead or whatever, and it's the same director. And I was like, I'll put it on, and just fucking fell in love. And like, you know, like
the opening sequence right away, it just grabs you, right? His editing style where it's to the music, to the beat, to the second.
Yeah.
And these super close-ups, and it's really, really cool stuff.
And that's what he did in Shaun of the Dead that I love. Like, you know, when they're like, and he did it to Queen in both movies, Baby Driver and Shaun of the Dead, where they're like, they've got on Killer Queen in the song in the movie, and they're just like smashing people's heads in Shaun of the Dead. And then Baby Driver, they did it again with Queen, but they did it with gunshots, and it was just so cool. Mm-hmm. You know, just everything about it was awesome. You know, so I loved it. So
yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah, but good year for movies. That one reigns supreme for me.
Right on.
Which is more of a Nick movie. All right, like
it kind of is.
Yeah.
You talk about the music, the editing, all that stuff. Yeah, it all comes together. It was on my list for sure. Yeah. I put Get Out ahead of Baby Driver and Blade Runner, but they were all in there.
Yeah. Did you like Us?
I did like Us. Yeah, I really did. I didn't see. Like we'll talk about 2019 later, but I didn't see a lot of movies in 2019.
Okay.
But Us was one that I saw in the theater that I liked. So
yeah, it was good. It was different than same with Get Out. They're different than when I thought I was gonna watch. So like you almost take a second to kind of take it in. Like, you know, when you're going in to see a movie and then it's different, you almost need time to adjust. Like if you're going into a Star Wars movie, or like, you know what you're gonna get. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, so it's weird when, you know, like how he does that. And,
well, and with Get Out, actually, I had heard so much about it, and I was really relieved that because I saw it late and I didn't want it to be spoiled. Yeah. I knew there was some sort of, you know, and there was maybe not a twist, but like a reason for the spooky feeling throughout the movie. And I'm super impressed, I guess, with myself that I didn't spoil it for myself. I tried not to read anything. I didn't see it in the theater, so I must have seen it towards the end of the year on, I must have downloaded it or something.
Yeah.
So that had a crazy twist. And it was funny too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, he's a comedian who makes it, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So 2018 movies, and then we'll be back on track, right?
Yeah. Okay. Let's go. Yeah.
So 2018 movie, Avengers: Infinity War.
Yeah, I picked it too. Yeah. It was, again, I went in thinking it was going to be one thing, and it ended up changing completely. Cause I everyone thought Captain America or Robert Downey Jr. was going to die in that one. You know, they were like, and then, you know, nobody thought they were going to kill Spider-Man or Black Panther or, you know, all these characters. Cause you thought cause they had movies, like, you know, they had more movies coming out, you know, like they only had one Black Panther movie. So you're like, well, obviously they're not going to kill the Black Panther. Mm-hmm. And it's just a great movie. And yeah.
I think it's my favorite Avengers ensemble movie.
Yeah.
I mean, other than Captain America, Civil War, if you can count that, but because of Thanos, like he was, out of all the Marvel villains, like he actually had a reason for, like a clear reason for his beliefs and doing what he did.
Yeah.
And he was like not super sympathetic, but like really well-developed villain. A lot of the other villains, to be honest, it's kind of why I'm not super into all the Marvel movies, is because I can't get behind some villains that they'll just leave after a movie or two, right? They don't really have a ton of purpose other than being bad for a short period of time.
Yeah.
You knew that this
And
guy
Thanos,
was,
they were teasing for like
forever.
6-7 years, right? Or since
Yeah.
Avengers 1. So,
Mhm.
yeah, so I picked that too. I did have to mention there were some good movies. Into the Spider-Verse was a great movie,
Yeah.
like it's probably Sam's favorite comic book movie. I did have to mention Ready Player One because I've read not a lot of books in my life. And, and I've read only 3 books twice. Great
Okay.
Gatsby, and that was because I was forced to do it because I had to redo English. I didn't have to redo English. I redid English, so I read Great Gatsby twice.
Okay.
I probably didn't even read it twice, but I like to think I did.
Scammed it.
A Teddy Atlas book, which is about boxing. I read it when I was like early in my 20s, and then I reread it a couple of years ago because now I know more about boxing. So I kind of wanted to. And he was on the Joe Rogan podcast. And I just it was a really good book, so I wanted to reread it. But it's an autobiography. And Ready Player One, it was a book I read, and then 3 months later, I was like, I want to read that again. It's most of the time I'm like, okay, I'll read 10 pages, and I'll force myself to read 10 pages. But Ready Player One, that book, I couldn't. I couldn't put down. I'd be like, oh, I read a chapter that was 25 pages in 15 minutes. I was like, I'll read it again, even though I've already read it. It was a book I couldn't put down. Movie came out, and the movie is not near as good as the book, never is, but I was like, I feel like I had to mention Ready Player One in the 2018s.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't done either. I haven't read the book or seen the movie, and I didn't see the movie. I think because the book, everybody says the book is really, really good. I don't know when I'll get around to it. It's one of those.
It's very It's not comic booky, but it's very video game oriented. The book, but it's old school video games. And Pac-Man and Asteroids or Dungeons and Dragons. But a lot of these games I don't even know about. But the writer does a good job. The writer has wrote 2 books. I love both of them. One of them's a little bit of a ripoff of Ender's Game, but whatever. And then he wrote a movie back in the early 2000s, and it's me and Sam's that's probably our favorite movie together as a couple. I'm sure you and Leslie have a favorite movie as a couple. But do you know what it is? By any chance?
No, I couldn't think of it.
Fanboys. You remember that movie?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So Ernest Cline, who wrote Ready Player One, he wrote Fanboys the movie. Loved the movie, and then he didn't write anything. He never did another movie, and he wrote Ready Player One, and then
right on.
So I picked all right, so let's go to albums.
Albums. I have kind of another Canadian rock album, Dear Rouge, Phases.
Okay.
So Dear Rouge, they're a band from actually Red Deer, Alberta.
Nice. Yeah.
And,
where's Matt? We gotta yell that.
Yeah. Shout out to Matt. And actually, I felt dumb for the longest time because Deer Rouge is Red Deer, right? Deer Rouge.
Oh, I am dumb. I would never have thought of that. Yeah. It's like City in Color is Dallas Green, right? Yeah. Well, I knew City Color was Dallas Green, but I didn't get the name. Yeah.
Somebody mentioned it to me once, and I was like, that makes sense. I feel dumb.
Yeah.
This is their second album. Leslie and I saw them live. I think in 2018 when the album came out, and they were we saw them at the Danforth Music Hall, which is pretty small venue. We were right up close, right center stage, first row or first couple rows, and they put on a great show. There's Leslie jokes that I have a thing for female singers, indie bands with female singers, but forget this the singer's name, but she just has a crazy good stage presence. And she had this interesting feather boa thing on, and she was dancing, and it was just a really good show. And it's, speaking of vinyls, Leslie and I have that album on vinyl, and we play it all the time. So
cool.
That one was big for me.
Yeah. Speaking of vinyls, 2018.
Oh, there you go.
Favorite album, Dark Skies by Fit for a King. So this is a band that I've been listening to for a long time, and their albums were always okay. So I started listening to them. I saw them open for Attila, 2013 or whatever. And I liked them, but then I'd always follow their albums. This fucking album was their probably their softest album, where they had the most melodic things, but just but still heavy. And I don't know if you've checked out this album, but there's a song called When Everything Means Nothing, and it's just one of my favorite songs. It's just yeah, it's just it's a good, fun album and heavy. There's some pretty heavy jams on there as well. I've actually seen them twice this year or last year in 2019 because that album was so good. Every time they came near, you know, like I was like, I gotta go see them. Like, you know, they play. Thankfully, they played in Ottawa twice, but you know, I bought my tickets early, and yeah, so I picked that album. Yeah,
Sweet.
yeah. All right, 2019.
Okay.
It's funny, like
2019.
as we get like earlier, like closer and closer to now, it's like we have less favorite stuff because I think things
It's true.
resonate as well with us, like, you know, because we haven't watched it 1,000 times or listened to it 1,000 times. So
You're totally right. For movies and for music, but like, yeah, it gets a little bit leaner as you go.
yeah.
For movies, 2019. So I was going through movies like that came out in 2019 that I saw. So that would mean that either it's in the theater or Netflix, basically. And I didn't do a lot of either this year. I didn't see a lot of movies. But the one that I saw maybe only a month ago in theaters was Knives Out.
Oh, okay. I've like I watched a bunch of stuff where it was like favorite movie of the year, read it from reviews. Everyone said Knives Out. Yeah. And it's
Knives Out was awesome.
Rian Johnson's first movie since Star Wars, The Last Jedi, and everybody hates him, Rian Johnson, because of what he did to The Last Jedi movie. And you know, and then he makes this movie that everybody loves, Knives Out. So it's definitely a movie me and Sam want to see.
Yeah, it was really, really well done. So it's got Daniel Craig in it.
Yeah.
We were talking about Daniel Craig earlier. So he's like a detective trying to solve this whodunit murder. And it's like a modern day version of Clue. You know, you have like a dozen different characters, and they're all like a little bit odd, and you're trying to figure out like, okay, is this person telling the truth? Or and it's really, really well done. Great performances. Yeah, it was great. And we actually kind of saw it by accident. So a few friends and I were going to see Dr. Sleep, the sequel to The Shining, right? That horror movie.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know they made a sequel to Shining. Yeah.
So it came out probably around Halloween, I guess, or just after. And we went to go see it, and it wasn't, for some reason, we got our wires crossed. It wasn't playing at that theater. We're like, oh, crap, we were already here. So we went to see Knives Out instead. And I would argue that I had a better time at Knives Out than I would have at Dr. Sleep anyway.
Yeah.
So it was really, really good time.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. 2000.
The other one, my I was going to say my honorable mention, hope I'm not stealing anything, was Us. So I liked Us.
Yeah. No, you're not stealing anything.
We talked about it earlier.
Yeah. It's not my favorite movie of the year. I just watched it last week. This was a weird year, like, because there was a lot of movies I wanted to see that I didn't see. A lot of movies that I liked, like John Wick 3, but it's not as good as the first John Wick. Spider-Man Far From Home, absolutely loved it, but I had to pick Endgame because seeing Endgame in theaters opening night, like, you know, like it was like 11 o'clock at night. It was like the first screening we could go to. I just like, and you know, I know it sounds so cheesy, but seeing Spider-Man swing in was like the most emotion I've ever felt in a movie. No, I know he's coming back. I know it's silly because I know there's a new Spider-Man movie coming out in a month. But, you know, just I was so invested in the Avengers movies for the past 10 years just to see it, you know, come to an end and it be good. And, you know, like, you know, like, is there things I would change? Yeah. Is it a perfect movie? No. Like, but was it like kind of just made me happy and did everything I wanted to do? Gave me everything I wanted it? Yeah. You know, that's just, I picked that one. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was, it's probably my favorite like adult movie that I watched, you know, like I have this thing I love Quentin Tarantino, and I didn't really like Hateful Eight. And I heard so much things about Once Upon a Time Hollywood. Other people loved it or hated it. And, you know, I watched it and I was just like, it was one of those things where you're expecting something and it's, you know, I don't want to spoil it too much because you haven't seen it, but you're expecting something and you're getting something different. So it's kind of like how I felt with Us and Get Out. Like, you know, like I'm expecting something. And then after I'm like, oh, that's not what I thought I was watching, but I really enjoyed that. Like, you know, like You know, I put it on at like 2:00 in the morning because Sam wasn't home that night and she went to Kingston for her family Christmas. I got home from work at 2 and I put it on. I was like, I'll watch like an hour of it because it's a 3-hour movie. Next thing I know, it's 5:00 in the morning. I'm like, fuck, I should probably go to sleep. I just like, you know, like Quentin Tarantino just has this way with his dialogue where you just fall in and, you know, like, yeah, it's just, you know, I really enjoy Quentin Tarantino. Like, you know, one of my favorite movies is Inglourious Basterds. So
yeah, me too.
And so it was close between the two, but I kind of had to pick Endgame because, you know, it's Endgame, you know.
I mean, I think you have to. I mean, I think I've listened to podcasts with Fez that you've been on where you talk about your experience in the theater and seeing Spider-Man swing in, and I think you have to pick that one.
Yeah. Let's go into albums.
Okay, this one is an easy one. I guess I have two, but I think 2019, my favorite album was Killswitch Engage, Atonement.
Oh, see, I didn't love that album.
You didn't like it?
No.
For me, it was, and you kind of know my style, right? I'm a little bit more melodic. Like I like heavy stuff, but I needed to have some sort of hook. And I just felt like I could get into like I've always liked Killswitch. I've liked them with Howard Jones and without Howard Jones. And the last album I wanted to like, but I just couldn't find any songs that really like grabbed me.
Yeah.
And there were a couple on this new album that were really good. And then there's also kind of a backstory where Jesse Leach is the singer's name.
Yeah.
You know, and he struggled with mental health issues, and
he's kind of always dealt with that, right? Like that's why he left them in the first round. I love Howard Jones, like that song with him. I love. But
there are some great melodies, and then, you know, if you listen to the lyrics in some of the songs, they're really kind of open. Like I Am Broken Too. That's a good one. You know, and I bought that. It's the first band T-shirt I bought in a while. I bought that band T-shirt because I just saw it on a whim on their Facebook, and it says 100% of proceeds go to mental health facilities in, I forget what city, but whatever city they're from. And
it's it's a very 2006 shirt too, which is kind of cool.
You know what? When I wear it, I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm 30, but I feel, like you said, I feel 60.
Yeah. It's funny that this year, 2019, there's some, you know, big bands. Tool finally released their album, and, you know, like people gave it album of the year or whatever. Like it just, for some reason, it felt like if we waited fucking 15 years for a 2 album, thought we would get a little bit more. And I thought some of the songs were a little
disappointed too,
dragged out. It's still a great album, but it's just not an album I'm like, oh, I got to listen to this song. And Slipknot came out with a new album. But again, like there's some great songs on the album, but I'm just like, yeah. Did you have anything else to say about the Killswitch, or I kind of interrupted you, but I just like.
No, I was done with Killswitch. The other one, and you know, it's been a theme throughout the decade for me, I guess, is the Black Keys again. So their album this year, Let's Rock.
Yeah. I did listen to this album because I think we were checking it out together, and then I listened to it on the car ride home, I think from Alexis. I liked it. It was it was a good album. I've just never been like a huge Black Keys fan. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think like I've been, I think this decade for me, I was a Black Keys super fan. I got into more like indie stylings than anything else, kind of more like bluesy indie than metal. Yeah. So the heavier years with Metallica, Lamb of God, and Killswitch were like heavy, but for the most part, I've been like a Black Keys fan throughout the whole thing, and saw them twice. Although they put on these big stadium shows with only 2 guys, so it's always great, but it feels like I really want to see them in like a club. I know it's never going to happen, but
they seem like a club band, you know. Awesome. So another like easy year for me to pick, because the album also is only like 3 months old. But the new Devil Wears Prada album, The Act, it was like an album that I wasn't really excited for because their last 2 albums weren't great. They're okay, but you know, like they released 2 albums since that EP, that 5-song EP, which I can't stop listening to. Then they released 2 albums where I'm like, there's maybe 2 songs I like on the album. And then the 2 songs or 3 songs they released off for the promotion of the album, I really liked, but I wasn't like I was like, oh, I kind of don't have a good feeling about this album. And then the
Mhm.
album actually absolutely blew me away, where I was telling you to listen to it. You know, like, so The Act from Devil Wears Prada is my favorite album of the year. There's so many great songs, and it's like, it's kind of like experimental but heavy and slow. It's just it's a good blend of everything. Attila also released a really good album this year. It's probably their heaviest album since 2013, but
Mhm.
you know, The Act, I don't know. I'm in like an age now where like I like experimental, like heavy, and like kind of quiet, not quiet, melodic music. You
Yep.
know, so I still love the heavy stuff, but I need that little blend, like, you know, Fit for a King's new album and Devil Wears Prada's new album. So that's why I picked those.
Nice. Right on.
Yeah.
Now we're in 2020.
Yeah. Oh,
Are
I
there,
didn't do any for 2020. Well, oh yeah, because
me either.
it's been a week.
5 years old.
Um,
I don't know if there's any albums planned to come out this year or not. I haven't read about any.
A Day to Remember does.
Okay.
A Day to Remember they were supposed to release an album late in 2019, November, and they ended up pushing it back. But they released 2 songs off the album. One I love, and the other one I was like, I listened to, but like, it was because it was a new A Day to Remember song, but I wouldn't, you know, like pick it out of a hat to like, oh, I need to listen to this song.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna split this episode into 2 episodes, just hour each, because, you know, like, we're already at 12:33 and it's been like an hour and a half.
Totally.
And there's some more stuff I wanted to talk about. So if do you still have some time, or you gotta get going?
I'm still good. No, I'm still good. The World Junior Game's on in half an hour, but I got all the time in the world. I got nowhere to be.
Yeah, Sweden won, so Sweden's got bronze.
Okay.
Yeah. You want? Let's go into. I wanted to do top 3 sporting events of.
Okay.
Top 3, not top 10. It can be from the same year.
It's tough.
Yeah. See, I it was pretty easy for me to pick 3. You know, like, so it's you know, let's hear yours.
Well, okay. Before we get into it, so I guess there's 2 ways you can do it. I don't know what you did. So you could go top 3, like, in general, like the top 3 biggest sports moments of the decade for everybody.
No, I did top 3 for PJ. Yeah.
For PJ. Okay, because the top 3 for Nick are going to be super specific.
Yeah.
But it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, like, there's always a story behind them too, right? Like, you know, what makes them such a good sporting, you know, like the Raptors, like, you know, you're going to remember, maybe I'm, you know, I already gave you this one. I was like, let's pick 3. I already know one of yours, right?
Yeah.
The Raptors winning the championship. Like, you are going to remember for the rest of your life where you were when the Raptors won the championship. Me, I was watching it on my phone in the living room going, hey, Sam, Raptors has won. That's good. Like, you know, like, I watched, you know, like the game 7 against Philly, and, you know, like, to me, it wasn't that big of a deal. So I didn't put that on my list, but, you know,
all right.
You can.
Yeah.
I don't mean to steal your thunder, but like.
No. Well, I'll save that one. So they're not in order, but I have more than 3, but I have to put, and it's not a great story, but I'll have to put the Packers Super Bowl in 2011 as one of them.
I thought it was before 2010. Okay, easy, awesome, yeah. They beat the Steelers.
So the Packers won the Super Bowl over the Steelers. So, you know, in terms of like moments for me, obviously I've been a Packers fan since the 90s. So that was super. It was a really memorable season. There were a lot of injuries that year. Rodgers went down. He always seems to go down with an injury in the years where they go the farthest.
Yeah.
This year he's been healthy, interestingly enough. But so he went down for a little brief period. I remember they squeaked into the playoffs, and then they played the Bears in a really memorable playoff game, like super old rivalry. And then when they got to the Super Bowl, they played the Steelers. We were just talking about this. Lil Wayne put out this great Green and Yellow song to the style of Black and Yellow.
Yeah.
And it was just a really great playoff run. Watched the Super Bowl at a bar in Ottawa, and I wanted to go out for the Super Bowl to like be among people, but we just kind of stayed at our table. So like, I don't know whether it would have been better or worse to watch at home, but they won. I remember talking to my friend Scott, who is a big Packers fan as well, about how they can repeat. They have the team, like they have a stacked team for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
And then you know, they haven't even sniffed it since. So
maybe this is the year. It's the first year.
This could be the year.
For 4 years, first time in 4 years, the Patriots will not be in the Super Bowl. I'm a little bitter about it. Last night I was pretty upset, but I was like, I kind of knew it was going to happen because when the Patriots looked great at the beginning of the year, and just they haven't looked great since week 12. So, you know, they don't have that momentum going in. They lost to the Dolphins last week, you know, and Canada crushed Finland, and then Vegas came back from 3-0 to win against St. Louis, the number 1 team in the league, arguably, and Fleury's one behind Lundqvist. I'm like, too many things are coming up, PJ, right now. Something's going to go wrong. I can't have 3 perfect, like, you know, like you always blame me. You always get mad at me for my team's doing really well, but they never, all the stars don't align. Like Fleury plays amazing, goes to the Stanley Cup Finals after 2 years of being backup, winning the cups, and then loses to my most hated hockey player ever, Ovechkin. Like, you know, they never can line up perfect for PJ. There's always something.
Well, yeah. I bug you about it because out of all your teams, usually each year there's something good that happens. Whereas like I cheer for 2 teams that it's sometimes it's surprising if they make the playoffs in the same year, let alone like you get championship or finals or whatever usually with your teams. But that's just how the way's been. So it's been a decade.
Yeah, like it's, you know, like there's always something for like Marc-Andre Fleury, like I said, like, you know, he goes to the Stanley Cup Finals, but he's back up to Murray. Or like, you know, he plays amazing against Washington, then shits the bed against Ottawa, and Murray takes over and he wins another cup. So it's like, yay, Fleury got a cup, but it's not like 2009 where he made the save, the save against
the save,
yeah, and you know, to win the cup. I think, were you at Alex's house when that happened?
No, I was in Toronto because that Leslie's birthday is the second week of June, and that's usually when the finals are.
Yeah,
so I was in Toronto visiting her, but I remember texting with you guys.
Yeah,
and Jess lives next door, right, to Leslie's parents, so she was there. She's a big Penguins fan, so you know I was, I think you had met her by then.
Yeah, because we met in like 2007 or something like that.
So I was texting her, texting you. So yeah, I wasn't with you guys, but you guys were all together for that?
Yeah. I remember that, and Alex's basement for that, and the goal that Eberle tied Russia. I remember being in Alex's basement for that.
I was there for that. That was one of the best. So, but that wasn't this decade, right?
Nope. So, and same with the Fleury save. It wasn't this decade, so it doesn't.
Yeah,
doesn't make
the cut. Easily on my list too.
Yeah. So yeah, Packers win the Super Bowl for you. I'm gonna go with, because we're talking about hockey, I was gonna do it in a different order, but the 2010 Sidney Crosby, early in the decade, the Sidney Crosby golden goal. You know, unfortunately, like it's such a such a great moment in hockey history for sure, and Canadian hockey history. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see it live, but I remember the atmosphere of being, you know, a delivery pizza driver in Belleville, Ontario, driving down the street, like rushing to get back to Boston Pizza to watch the overtime, and people running onto the street, like this giant, crazy, busy street in Belleville. There's only one of them. People running on, not caring where cars are, to jump, and like they're throwing their flags around. Like it's, you know, like, so I'm glad I got to see that rather than the goal. Does that make sense? Like, cause like, yeah, like I'm seeing people run out. Like I know what's happening. I'm like, oh, Canada won. Like not knowing that Sidney Crosby, you know, a Pittsburgh Penguin player, like just that kind of moment. Like, yeah. So I picked that one.
Huge. I think we've talked about this before. I didn't see the goal either, and I think we're like 2 of the only people on earth that didn't see the goal. Like if you were to poll 100 people,
and we're such hockey fans, you know. Like
I know.
Yeah.
So I was working at the movie theater. And I was one of the only people not to book it off in advance. I just completely forgot. And when it came time to, like, I couldn't call in sick because they knew that everybody had booked the day off for this reason. So it'd be super obvious. So I went in and we listened to the game on the radio. But when it came time, like there were only a few people at the movies, like non-hockey fans.
Yeah.
When overtime started, a movie was about to start and I had to go clean the theater. And I had my broom in hand in the theater being like, oh, overtime's going on. And then I come out and everybody's cheering because they were listening to the radio in the lobby.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay. So they won, but I missed the whole thing.
Yeah. So that sucks.
Huge moment though. Like I think that would make anybody's list.
Yeah.
That goal.
And they did it in Canada, and like, you know, it's just, I beat America. Like it was just a cool kind of thing. All right, my second one on the list. It sucks because like this one was probably my favorite moment, but I wasn't with a group of people to kind of like share it with. I was with like some friends that I train with, but I wasn't with like Grant and Lyle or like Tyler, who I've been arguing about for months about this fight. Is Conor McGregor knocking out Jose Aldo. So we talked about this fight for over a year, right? And I was the only one who rooted for Conor McGregor. Everyone else was against Conor. And, I remember when Conor first signed to the UFC, I always talk about this moment because we were doing a podcast and I was like, the UFC signed this guy from Ireland today. He's going to be a big deal, blah, blah, blah. And then, we didn't obviously realize how big of a name Conor McGregor was going to be. But, that Jose Aldo fight was supposed to happen like 6 months before and Aldo pulled out. And then, so we're arguing and Conor knocks him out in 13 seconds. I know you don't know a lot about MMA, but Jose Aldo is a guy that lost one fight before, like he left Brazil. Like he was undefeated, in 10 years. I don't even think he lost a round in the UFC. And then he gets against Conor and Conor fucking one punches him in 13 seconds and knocks him stiff. Not a bad stoppage, nothing. And, it's just such a cool, like thing to see, I was in a bar, and, like, yes, with people I know, but just, not like watching, hockey with you guys and, or like Grant and Lyle weren't there. So probably for the best, because they probably would have punched me because they hated Conor McGregor, but whatever.
Was that the beginning of his trajectory upwards, or was he already, I forget if you said this, was he already established by then? Or?
So he was already interim champ at the time. Like the moment that guy Conor McGregor came to the UFC, he knocked out a guy like in a minute. And he grabbed the mic and people were like, oh, we have something here. Like, he's special. And then, he got hurt. Yeah. So he fought again. He fought Max Holloway, who was just the champion and actually lost last month, his championship. He'd been champion for about 4 years since Conor left the featherweight division. So he fought Max Holloway and he tore his ACL. So he took some time off, obviously, came back, and then he just immediately exploded. And he fought like 3 times in like 6 months. One of them was we watched at my birthday party. Remember he knocked out Dustin Poirier in like
I think so.
A couple minutes. Yeah, we watched it at the Brass in Kingston.
Oh yeah.
But that that was just like, he kept knocking out guys, and then he fought, another guy and knocked him out and called out Aldo. And then they were supposed to fight. So there was a lot of hype. Aldo pulled out 2 weeks before. Conor fought a wrestler who everyone was like, oh, wrestlers are going to beat Conor. He knocked out that wrestler. And then he fought Aldo. And so like, it was like years coming. Right. But, that knockout obviously skyrocketed him. And then he fought Nate Diaz, lost, fought him again, won. Like, so it's like so much since. And, it's cool he's making his return next month. I don't know how it's going to go or this month, but it's going to, So I had to pick that.
And he's probably one of the biggest athletes in general of the decade, I would say, right?
Like hands down. Yeah.
Owned the sport.
Yeah. He's lost. He's lost, and he's still the most paid MMA fighter of all time. And, he's like a household name to where people like, you can say Khabib Nurmagomedov or whatever, however you say his name. I can't even say it right. Most people are going to be like, what did you just say to me? But you say Conor McGregor, he's a household name.
They know. Yeah.
All right. Let's hear your next one.
Number 2, I'll put the Raptors championship as number 2. Because, so everybody knows the story. It was only last year. But I think living here in the city, it was pretty unique to see how the city banded together over the Raptors. Like, and we talk about all the time that, like, even this year, I swore that I was going to get into basketball more, and I've still only been kind of a, not a bandwagon fan, but kind of like a arm's length fan this year. Yeah. But last year, just everybody got into it, and the excitement in the city was bigger than anything Blue Jays in the last decade, even bigger than anything Leafs.
Yeah.
I think everybody saw that this team had something, and a guy like Kawhi coming in, and before the Kawhi trade, or when the Kawhi trade happened, I thought, this guy, great athlete, I think he's going to turn the team around. But I didn't know how dominant
he was. Yeah,
one player could be on a team. Like, it was just a switch. I compared it to like a hockey trade, and a friend of mine who knew basketball was like, no, this is the biggest trade in basketball over the last, I don't know, however many years. Like
Yeah.
it's going to turn this team right around.
Because like I remember DeMar DeRozan was like the thing in Toronto, and then I like here they trade him. I'm like, what is going on? Like, and I obviously didn't know who this guy was, and like, you know, like it's not like, again, like LeBron, household name, Stephen Curry, but yeah, like that, yeah. And no, it got a Raptors championship. So even though he was only there for 1 year, you know, and they're still amazing this year, but you know, just and that shot in Game 7 against Philadelphia, like.
Well, that was Game 6. Or no, sorry, no, that was Game 7. You're right.
Okay.
That was Game 7. They won in Game 6. But what was I going to say? Oh yeah, and then the parade. So everybody's talked about the parade, and everybody in this city has, well, and people who traveled has a story about the parade, which is really interesting. Doesn't matter if you're a fan or not. Everybody on parade day has a really fun story. So either you work in the financial district on like the, you know, in one of those high rises and you were like watching out the window, or like you took your kids down to see it or whatever, or some people had a terrible experience. Like there were the people that were waiting in the square for 6 hours without water, with no video feed, so they couldn't even see where the parade was at the time. So there were people who were, you know, camped out overnight, who had no, by the time they got there, it was like a party. But for 12 hours or however long they were there, they just had no communication with anybody. There were so many people packed downtown that cell reception was pretty spotty. So it was a really fun day, but also like it could have been a lot worse because of all the people that were jammed in that really, really tight space. So it's just a really
one person died, but it could have been worse.
Well, no, I don't think anybody died, but like there was a shooting.
Okay, sorry.
If somebody died, it would have been that day would have been really awful. But like there was somebody shot, I think in the leg or something, which is not great. Still,
it's not good.
But there could have been a stampede was the bigger thing.
I guess it could have been worse.
Anyway, but the overall thing is that the championship year, I think, like just from start to finish, was pretty memorable. I talk in terms of the city of Toronto, but I think the whole country got into it. But it depends where you were, which pocket you were in. If you're in a pocket with a lot of really big basketball fans and you were watching it, you know, with friends, as you said, with like the Conor McGregor thing, I think watching it with people makes a difference. If you're watching it on your phone and you're by yourself and you don't really not really into it, it's not as much of a, you know, impactful moment for you.
And so that's a segue into my favorite moment, because I watched it with you and I watched it with a bunch of people I didn't know and you, and you know, it was Patriots 28-3 comeback. How do you not put that as the top moment? Because you know, you're at a game, you're wearing a Patriots jersey, everyone wants the Patriots to lose. You know, I'm with you and a bunch of people. I think I maybe have met.
My family
once, maybe one. Like most of those people I'd never met. Maybe one of them I might have met in passing in Kingston. And all of a sudden, you know, like it's the greatest comeback in sports history. You know, and then, but it's like also your family is like, hey, like this might be cool if they come back. You know, and then and like, you know. Tom Brady says he's not going to retire. Like he's kind of made a statement saying like, I doubt this will be my last game. He might wear a different jersey next year, pull a Favre, pull a Peyton Manning, whatever. I'd be surprised if he goes away from Boston, but you know, that I think solidifies, like that's got to be his best championship. Like even though that was his 5th championship, even though, you know, he had a 19-0 season, you know, that coming back from 28-3 to win a Super Bowl in the 4th quarter is gotta be.
I got it. Yeah, it was memorable because obviously I was there with you, and it was really interesting because nobody wanted the Patriots to win. Everybody was razzing you for your jersey. Did you wear a jersey or did you? I forget if you wore it or not.
I think I forgot a jersey just because I was just coming down to see the Red Hot Chili Peppers, because I remember our friend Kieran, who has never said anything nice on the internet. I don't know if he's ever listening to this, but he's never said a nice thing to any of us on the internet. And he made it clear that I was not wearing my Patriots jersey,
Oh,
which,
yeah.
I've worn every other time they've won a Super Bowl, in this decade. Except for that one, just happened to be like, in a different city. I didn't, I just forgot to pack it. Like, I left 4 days before or whatever. So, and we were going for a concert. So it wasn't like we were going to a sports game. And yeah.
No, it was like, so you weren't wearing your jersey, but like everybody at that party was kind of like, okay, nobody really wanted the Patriots to win. So I'll never forget, like, as the game went on, 28-3 lead. So we're all going like, sorry, PJ, time to head home. Like, your team's done. And then once the comeback started, everybody in the room, like you said, kind of went, this could be cool. And even though I can't stand the Patriots, there was a small part of me that, like, in the fourth quarter was kind of rooting for them to win.
Yeah.
Just because it'd be the most interesting story and the craziest thing to happen. I guess partly the Falcons imploded, but there were some crazy plays that what's his name? Edelman made that catch off the ground.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah. It was a cool sporting event, I like it over their Seattle win. Obviously I picked it over their Seattle win. Like they could have ran it. They decided to throw it and throw an interception, so it's just one of those, things like, the Seattle moment, the Patriots for Seattle was another big one, right? But and then last year's Super Bowl was just it's not a memorable game, like Tom Brady didn't throw a touchdown. I think there was only field goals. It was just
a pretty boring one.
Yeah. So sweet. You got a last one? We should wrap this up. It has been 2 hours and I gotta pee. I gotta go. All right. Get going. So
okay, all right, last one. So I'm the biggest Sens fan over anything else, right?
Yeah.
So the decade in Sens history wasn't super, super memorable. Like they had a couple of runs, but nothing like Stanley Cup Finals or no championships or anything like that. So
overtime at Game 7 of the conference finals, but
that was a low light. That was a low light because that was pretty heartbreaking. That was like one of the most heartbreaking overtime losses. Again, to the Pens. It always happens to the Pens.
Yeah.
But so there were a few things this decade, just because I was watching the Sens game last night and they went through like the decade in Ottawa Senators. So there was the outdoor game in 2014 that I was at. That was probably the coldest I've ever been.
Yeah.
There was the playoff series in 2013 against Montreal where Pajot scored a hat trick.
Yeah.
And that was memorable because they that game they beat Montreal 6-1. But the best part of that game was like it got chippy towards the end, and there was a brawl at the end of the game, and everybody, all 5 players on the ice for both teams fought. They picked a partner and fought. It was at home at the Canadian Tire Center, and Ottawa won all 5 fights at the same time at center ice. The crowd just went nuts. So that was like Chris Neil was on the ice at the time, and just like he was pumping up the crowd. It was like a full-on beatdown in Montreal, which is pretty cool. The biggest one, though, and you were a part of this, so it wouldn't be on anybody else's list, but in 2017 on April 29th was the day of my wedding.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it was announced like the week before that the Sens had made the second round, and the schedule came out.
Yeah.
And the game was at 2 p.m. and my wedding was at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm not watching this game, but hopefully they win. I bring them a little bit good luck on my wedding.
Yeah.
So, they were losing. I remember we were in the limo and they were losing. And then they made a comeback. It went to overtime. And my reception had started, and you were the MC. So overtime's going on. I'm trying not to pay attention. And then our first dance starts. I'm just telling, this story, but I'm telling this for the podcast. And people are checking their phones, and I didn't notice because I'm dancing with my wife. But after we ended, I think it was you that took the mic. It must have been.
Oh, I was the MC. Yeah. So yeah, I did say it. Yeah.
So Pajot, again, another hat trick in the playoffs, but he scored in overtime during my first dance at my wedding to beat the Rangers. I think it was game 4 or game 5.
Yeah.
It's just like the most memorable day in my life and the craziest playoff win I've ever seen. I didn't see it.
But but it's memorable, yeah.
That was crazy memorable. And then like in that run, there were a lot of like crazy moments. We were in Florence, Italy for our honeymoon, and we watched a game at a bar. They streamed it for us because the guys at the sports bar were just like, whatever, they'll put on any North American sport you could think of. So they streamed the game for us. We're the only people in this bar in Italy watching hockey.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And that was an overtime winner as well. So I was just like, I'm in Italy on my honeymoon, drinking wine, eating pasta, watching the Sens on this crazy improbable run. So the 2017 Sens run ended with that overtime goal that Chris Kunitz scored.
Yeah.
On them, but that was the most memorable playoff run of the decade for me.
Cool. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm glad we got to experience our top sporting moments together of the year, of the decade. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we probably should wrap this up. It has been 2 hours. I got some things I got to do. I got to teach this afternoon, and the game's about to start. So,
game's about to start.
Yeah. Thank you for being my first guest of 2020, and my first guest since Kevin Eastman. I technically did record a podcast the end 2019, but it was unairable. There was some alcohol involved. There was Grant. There were some comments that were made, not from Grant. There was, Grant was the most behaved one. There was also Tyler here. It was just a nightmare of a podcast. I was like, this is not seeing the light of day. I had to reformat my computer to erase it.
Oh man.
I wasn't that bad, but it was just annoying. It was just dumb. I didn't want it to go out,
So the Kelowna episode made the cut over that one, eh?
Yes, yeah. So Tyler's bright idea was to do a shot of beer every minute for the podcast episode, and it just and we were trying to get Lyle in too, but Lyle couldn't make the call because we had to do it over Skype, and it just didn't work out. It just didn't sound good. It could have been fun, but I just think it was best that
fair enough.
Didn't get aired. And that couldn't have been my follow-up episode after Kevin Eastman either. I was like, I can't let this one be the episode after Kevin. So,
well, I'm honored. Thanks for having me on. This was really, really fun. It was cool to look back at all the years. So I don't know what other categories there are, but it'd be fun to do again at some point.
I wrote down celebrities who died, but that one's sad, Yeah.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. They're dead, so.
There's a lot to pick, too. That was a bad decade for that.
We'll do this again in 2030. We'll do another recap.
Let's do it. 40th birthdays.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. Cheers.